Hello everyone, myself Saloni Narayan Kadam. I am first year MBBS student from Rajiv Gandhi Medical College, Thane. In this video, I am going to talk about a very interesting topic from osteology, which is the norma basalis. Along with being interesting, this is a very important topic from the Viva examination point of view. So without wasting any time, let's go for it.
So this is a human skull bone without the mandible, and norma basalis is the part of the skull which we see when we view the skull from its base. Like this is the base of the skull. This is the part which we will see when we view it from its base. So this is the norma basalis. The norma basalis is boundaried laterally by the zygomatic arch, the temporal bone, and the mastoid process, and anterior-posteriorly it extends from the alveolar arch up to the superior nuchal line. The norma basalis is divided into three parts: the anterior 1/3 part, the middle 1/3 part, and the posterior 1/3 part. The anterior 1/3 part extends from the alveolar arch up to the posterior free margin of the hard palate. The middle 1/3 part extends from the posterior margin of the hard palate up to an imaginary transverse line which passes from the anterior of the foramen magnum. This is the imaginary transverse line passing from the anterior of the foramen magnum. And the posterior 1/3 part extends from this imaginary transverse line up to the superior nuchal line, which is a bony crest which extends on both the sides laterally from the external occipital protuberance. So now we'll study about the first 1/3 of the norma basalis. So it consists of the alveolar arch in which the tooth are embedded, tooth of the upper jaw. The upper part tooths are embedded in it with the help of a fibrous joint that is called gomphosis. And it also contains hard palate. The hard palate is made up of two types of bones, that is the palatine process of the maxillary bone and the horizontal plate of the palatine bone. So the palatine process of the maxillary bone are attached to each other with the help of the intermaxillary suture. This is the intermaxillary suture, the median line. They are attached with this, and the palatine bones are attached to each other with the help of the interpalatine suture. Now the maxillary part and the palatine part are attached to each other with the help of the palatomaxillary suture. This crescenteric suture is the palatomaxillary suture. So the hard palate, although it looks like it is one bone, but it is made up of two types of bones which has four parts in it. Now we'll move on the foramens and fossa of the anterior part. This is called incisive fossa. This lies between the two incisors behind them and on the anterior part of the hard palate. So this is the incisive fossa, in which there is an incisive foramen through which the greater palatine vessels and the nasopalatine nerve passes, and this gives the connection between the oral cavity and the nasal cavity. Now on the posterior part, on the posterolateral part, we can see these two foramens on the palatine bone, on the lateral side of the palatine bone. These are called greater palatine foramens. From this, greater palatine vessels pass, and also anterior palatine nerve passes. The greater palatine vessels which pass through this go from this path. There is a sulcus, shallow sulcus, from which they pass, and then they go into the anterior fossa, this incisive fossa. There are also some small foramens called the lesser palatine foramen, which lie on the posterior side of the greater palatine foramen, which transmit the middle and the posterior palatine nerves. These are the foramens. You can see these. These are the foramens. These are generally 2 to 3 in number. These are called lesser palatine foramens. There is also a crest on the posterior part of the palatine bone, which is called the palatine crest, which gives attachment to a palatine aponeurosis, which is aponeurosis of the muscle tensor vellae palati. So this is all about the anterior 1/3 of the norma basalis. So now we'll go to the medial part of the medial 1/3 of the norma basalis, which is again divided into two parts, that is the medial part, which is this is the medial part, and the lateral part. The medial part anteriorly has the pterygoid plates. These are the perpendicular plates which are from the sphenoid bone, and there is also a vomer. This is a separate bone. This forms the posterior part of the nasal septum. So there are medial pterygoid plate, lateral pterygoid plate, and vomer, and the vomer has its two ala. Okay, now there are two canals which are formed between the vomer bone, the palatine bone, and the pterygoid plates. So now we'll first of all study about the vomerovaginal canal. So the medial pterygoid plate has a vaginal process, that is a process which extends medially, that is called the vaginal process of the pterygoid plate. And between the vaginal process of the medial pterygoid plate and the ala of the vomer bone, there is a canal that is called the vomerovaginal canal, as it is formed between the vaginal process of the medial pterygoid plate and ala of the vomer. So this is the vomerovaginal canal. There is another canal which is called the palatovaginal canal, which is formed between the palatine bone and the ala of the vomer bone. So these are the canal which you can see are called the palatovaginal canal. So these are formed between the palatine bone and the ala of the vomer bone, and both of these canals transmit the pharyngeal nerves and arteries through them. Now the middle part of the middle norma basalis also consists of a broad bar of bone, which is formed by the fusion of two bones, which is sphenoid bone and occipital bone. Now there is a presence of a tubercle which lies anteriorly to the anterior margin of the foramen magnum. This is called pharyngeal tubercle. This is called so because it gives attachment to the constrictor muscles of the pharynx. Now we'll go for the lateral part of the middle 1/3 of the norma basalis. It consists of three bones, that is three parts of bones, that is the greater wing of the sphenoid bone, the squamous part of the temporal bone, and the petrous temporal bone. Now we'll go for the foramens of the greater wing of the sphenoid. So there is first of all this foramen ovale. This is called so because it is oval in shape. Its shape is oval. Now this foramen ovale transmits four structures through it, which can be remembered by the mnemonic MALE, in which the M stands for the mandibular nerve, the A stands for the accessory middle meningeal artery, the L stands for the lesser petrosal nerve, and the E stands for the emissary vein. So these are the four structures which transmit through the foramen ovale. Now behind foramen ovale there is the spinous process of the sphenoid bone. This is the spinous process of the sphenoid bone, which has a foramen spinosum on its anterolateral part, which transmits two structures through it, which are spinous nerve and middle meningeal artery. The tip of the spinous process of the sphenoid bone gives attachment to two ligaments, which are sphenomandibular ligament and pterygospinous ligament. Now the anterior part of the middle, anteromedial part of the middle 1/3 forms a foramen lacerum, which is between the broad bar of bone and the petrous temporal bone. So this foramen lacerum opens into the middle cranial fossa. This is a big opening which opens into the middle cranial fossa, and this foramen lacerum transmits four structures through it, which can be remembered by the mnemonic GEMI, G-E-M-I. So here G stands for the greater petrosal nerve, E stands for the emissary veins, M stands for the meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery, and I stands for the internal carotid artery. So these are the four structures which can pass through the foramen of lacerum, which is remembered by the mnemonics GEMI, G-E-M-I. Now there is also a sulcus which lies between the posteromedial part of the greater wing of sphenoid and the petrous temporal bone, which is called sulcus tubae. This which you can see here is sulcus tubae. This thing. This is sulcus tubae. which lodges the cartilaginous part of the auditory tube. This auditory tube then continues into the bony part, which ends as a external acoustic meatus. So this cartilaginous tube continues as a bony tube which opens into the external acoustic meatus. There is also presence of an important canal, that is the carotid canal, which opens into the middle cranial fossa, and it then joins the opening of the foramen lacerum into the middle cranial fossa. This carotid canal transmits two structures through it, that is the internal carotid artery along with its venous plexus and the emissary veins. So this is the carotid canal which opens into the middle cranial fossa. So this was all about the middle part of the norma basalis. Now the jugular foramen is a very large foramen on the posterior part which opens into the posterior cranial fossa. So this transmits three cranial nerves, that is the 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerves, which are glossopharyngeal nerve, vagus nerve and spinal accessory nerve. This jugular foramen also gives opening to the sigmoid sinus of the posterior cranial fossa. That is, this is the sigmoid sinus. This is the sigmoid sinus, which is a venous sinus which opens into the jugular foramen. And the jugular foramen also gives opening to the inferior petrosal sinus. The lateral wall of the jugular foramen has a bulge which lodges the bulb of the jugular vein. The posterior 1/3 of the norma basalis extends from the transverse imaginary line which passes from the anterior of the foramen magnum up to the superior nuchal line. It also consists of the styloid process, which is a sharp bony projection. You can say this is a sharp bony projection. This is in relation with the internal jugular vein medially and with the parotid gland laterally. This medially is related with the internal jugular vein and laterally it is related with the parotid gland. It gives attachment to three muscles and two ligaments. The three muscles are stylohyoid muscle, styloglossus muscle and stylopharyngeus muscle. And the two ligaments are stylohyoid ligament and stylomandibular ligament. The styloid process along with the three muscles attached to it and the two ligaments is called the styloid apparatus. This can be asked as a short question. So what is styloid apparatus? So in that you can write about the styloid process along with its three muscle attachment and two ligament attachment. On the lateral wall of the jugular foramen there is a small foramen called the mastoid canaliculus, through which a branch of the vagus nerve passes, which is called the Edelman's nerve. This is the auditory branch of the vagus nerve. So this goes to the meatus part for the hearing. On the anterior part you can see there are these occipital condyles. These occipital condyles attach with the atlas vertebra to give the atlanto-occipital joint. And below, that is inferior to the occipital condyles, you can see these foramens. These are called hypoglossal foramens or anterior infracondylar foramens. These hypoglossal foramens transmit the hypoglossal nerve and the middle meningeal branch of the ascending pharyngeal artery. There are sometimes the presence of the posterior infracondylar foramen, which are present in only some, like it is present over here but not over here. So they transmit emissary veins and meningeal branch of the occipital artery through it. Now there is a foramen between the styloid process and the mastoid process. This foramen is called the stylomastoid foramen. This foramen transmits the facial nerve through it and the stylomastoid artery. This is stylomastoid foramen, which is present between the styloid process and the mastoid process. It transmits the facial nerve and the stylomastoid artery. Now the most prominently visible foramen of the norma basalis, that is the foramen magnum, which is a connection between the posterior cranial fossa and the vertebral canal. It passes the spinal cord through it. So there are 9 structures which pass through the foramen magnum, which can be studied with the help of a diagram. So now we'll draw a diagram which will help us to know about the structures passing through the foramen magnum. So this is foramen magnum. So the foramen magnum is divided into 2 parts, that is the anterior part and the posterior part. This is the anterior compartment of the foramen magnum and this is the posterior compartment of the foramen magnum. So the anterior compartment, which is this part, this is the anterior compartment, this much is the anterior compartment. It consists of attachment of 3 ligaments. First of all, there is apical ligament of dens, and then there is a band of ligament which is called the longitudinal band of cruciform ligament. There is one more attachment over here which is of membrana tectoria. So this was all about the anterior compartment of the foramen magnum. Now we'll go to the posterior compartment. The posterior compartment includes, first of all, the most important structure, that is the medulla oblongata, which continues as the spinal cord. Now on the lateral part, both the lateral part of the medulla oblongata, there is presence of the vertebral artery. So these are the vertebral arteries. And on the anterior side of the medulla oblongata, there is presence of one artery. The vertebral arteries are paired artery, whereas this artery, this is not paired. It is called the anterior spinal artery. Now on the posterior side of the medulla oblongata, there is presence of a pair of arteries which are called the posterior spinal arteries. The anterior spinal artery is an unpaired artery, whereas the posterior spinal artery is a pair of arteries. Now there also exists the sympathetic plexus, which is on the lateral side. So this is the sympathetic chain which is on the lateral side. So we'll name this sympathetic plexus. And there are also spinal roots of the 11th cranial nerve, that is this. From this we can show the spinal roots of the 11th cranial nerve. So these are the spinal roots of the 11th cranial nerves. Okay, so these are the structures which pass through the foramen magnum. So this diagram is going to help you to rememberize the structures which are passing from the foramen magnum. Okay, so the medulla oblongata, this is the medulla oblongata, which continues as the spinal cord. And these are the structures passing through the foramen magnum. So this was all about the norma basialis and the foramens and the structures passing through them. Along with the foramens of the norma basialis, some foramens are there in the cranial fossa, which are also important, like superior orbital fissure and optic foramen. I have made a chart of all the important foramens of the norma basialis and the cranial fossa along with the structures passing through them. That chart I will put at the end of the video. So please have a look at it. Thank you.